He thought she was just another woman he could humiliate. But when she walked into that courtroom, he realized he just picked a fight with the wrong one. This is the story of how a proud officer's badge couldn't save him when the truth came to light. Sometimes, the night hides more than just darkness. It hides arrogance. It hides fear. And sometimes, it hides justice waiting for its turn. That night, on the wet streets of Jacksonville, Florida, a woman named Dr. Maya Ellison was driving home. The road was quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. Her fingers tapped lightly on the steering wheel, to the rhythm of an old jazz tune playing from her car's speakers. She wasn't in her white coat tonight. No hospital badge, no stethoscope. Just a black hoodie and tired eyes. She had spent 12 hours saving lives, and all she wanted was rest. But some nights don't end how you expect. As she approached the intersection near Riverside Parkway, red and blue lights suddenly flared in her rearview mirror. The kind that make your chest tighten. The kind that say, this might not end well. Maya sighed, easing her car to the side of the road. She'd been through this before. Too many times. She turned off the engine, kept both hands on the wheel, and waited. Slow footsteps approaching, the crunch of wet gravel. A flashlight beam cut through her window, and behind it stood a man whose name she'd never forget. Sergeant Cole Walker. His voice came through the glass, flat and cold. License and registration. No greeting. No explanation. No respect. Maya stayed calm. She handed over her documents and asked softly, was I speeding, officer? Cole's lips curled into a smirk. Broken taillight. Her brows furrowed. That can't be right. My car was just serviced last. Are you arguing with me? He snapped. That's when it began. That unspoken tension. That shift in the air where power meets prejudice. Maya took a slow breath. I'm not arguing, she said gently. I'm just asking, what's the issue exactly? Cole stepped closer, the flashlight still in her face. He didn't want to talk. He wanted control. Step out of the car. Maya hesitated. May I ask why? Cole tilted his head, smirk still sitting ugly on his face. Because I said so. And in that moment, Maya knew this wasn't about a taillight. This was about ego. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out into the rain. Her breath came out in small clouds. The air was cold, but the tension was colder. Cole circled her car like a predator. Then, without warning, barked. Hand on the car. Maya frowned. Officer, I haven't done. He cut her off again. You resisting? She kept her voice calm. No, I'm asking a question. That answer alone was enough to make his jaw tighten. He hated composure, especially from someone he expected to fear him. Turn around, he ordered. And when she didn't move fast enough for his liking, he grabbed her wrist. Tight, too tight. Pain shot up her arm, but she didn't flinch. She looked him dead in the eye and said, You're making a mistake you won't forget. Cole smirked. Lady, I know exactly what I'm doing. But he didn't. Not even close. Sound. Handcuffs clicking shut. He shoved her toward the patrol car, the cuffs biting into her wrists until they burned. Inside the cruiser, Maya sat still, breathing slow, eyes forward. She'd been through combat drills and medical missions overseas. She'd seen chaos. But this quiet humiliation, it hit different. Cole got back in, humming like nothing had happened. You know, he said, most people just listen when I tell them to step out. Maya stared straight ahead, and most officers don't arrest people for asking questions. He glanced at her reflection in the mirror, his smirk fading just slightly. You think you're special, huh? She didn't answer. Kindly take a few seconds to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell. Cole leaned back, as if he was trying to figure her out. Yeah, I bet you are. One of those women who think they're above the law. The patrol car rolled through the empty streets. Rain washed over the windshield, blurring the lights outside. At last, the police station came into view. A squat gray building on the edge of town. Cold, lifeless. Cole parked, turned off the engine, and glanced back at Maya through the metal partition. Welcome to your new home for the night. Maya didn't say a word, but behind her calm eyes, a plan was already forming. The holding area smelled like old coffee and regret. Cole pushed her through booking, Fingerprints, mugshot, the whole routine. The officers at the desk barely looked up. They'd seen this scene before. Too often. Too normal. When it was done, Cole led her to a small holding cell. He removed the cuffs and said under his breath, "Enjoy your stay." Maya stepped inside slowly, turned back toward him, and said calmly, "Oh, I will." Cole chuckled as he locked the door. She really thinks she's somebody. He walked off, but if he had turned back, he might have seen the faintest smile forming on her lips, because she was somebody, and soon he'd find out exactly who. Hours passed. The rain outside turned into thunder. The room was dim, lit by a single flickering bulb that buzzed like an insect. Maya sat on the metal bench, breathing evenly, every breath controlled, every movement deliberate. Through the bars, she could hear voices, officers laughing, a coffee mug slamming on a desk, a printer humming, ordinary sounds of an unjust night. Then came footsteps, heavy, familiar. Cole. He appeared in front of her cell, arms crossed, smirk back on his face. "Comfy?" he asked. She didn't answer. He stepped closer, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You know, if you just played along, you wouldn't be in here right now." Maya raised her head slowly, looked him straight in the eyes, and said softly, "Oh, I'm exactly where I need to be." For the first time that night, his smirk flickered, just a little, but before he could respond, another officer hurried into the hallway, holding a clipboard. "Ah, Sergeant." The young officer's voice trembled. "There's a call you need to take." "Urgent." Cole frowned. "Who's calling at this hour?" The officer hesitated. "It's from the Attorney General's office, sir." The smirk disappeared. "What?" Maya leaned back, her eyes glinting with quiet confidence. Cole threw one last look at her, then stormed out. She sat there in silence, the faint echo of his boots fading down the hall. And for the first time that night, she smiled. Outside, lightning cracked across the sky, and the rain began to pour harder. In another part of the city, phones were ringing, emails flying. The name Dr. Maya Ellison was echoing through official channels. Because what Sergeant Cole Walker didn't know was that the woman he arrested wasn't just any woman. She was a forensic consultant for the state, a government physician who had testified in multiple high-profile cases, some of which involved police misconduct. And when she didn't show up for her scheduled review meeting that night, people started asking questions. Important people. Back in holding cell, Maya leaned her head against the wall, eyes half closed, but her mind was sharp. She replayed the entire incident in her head, every word, every movement, every violation. And she knew, the moment this went public, Cole's career wouldn't survive the storm that was coming. But for now, she waited, because patience was power, and she had plenty of it. Meanwhile, in the front office, Cole's confidence began to crack. The officer handed him the phone, his face pale. Cole picked up. "This is Sergeant Walker." The voice on the other end was calm, professional, but sharp. "Sergeant Walker, this is Deputy Attorney Marcus Reed. We've been informed that you've detained Dr. Maya Ellison without probable cause. Do you understand the seriousness of that?" Cole froze. "Wait, who?" Reed's voice cut through the static. "Dr. Ellison is a state-appointed medical examiner. Her arrest will require a full review. I suggest you prepare yourself." The line went dead. Cole's hand shook slightly as he set the phone down. He turned, catching the eyes of the younger officer nearby, who looked like he wanted no part of whatever was about to happen. Cole stormed back toward the cells, jaw clenched, boots echoing like thunder. He stopped in front of Maya's cell, hands gripping the bars. "What the hell did you do?" Maya looked up slowly, her face calm. "I didn't do anything, Sergeant. But it looks like someone finally noticed what you did." Cole's nostrils flared. "You called someone, didn't you?" Maya tilted her head slightly. "I didn't have to." He glared at her, realizing she wasn't bluffing. Something about the way she spoke, steady, measured, dangerous, made him uneasy, and that unease was growing. Outside the station, a black sedan pulled up quietly. Two men stepped out, badges glinting under the streetlights. They weren't local. They weren't there for a visit. They were federal investigators. And inside that cold, gray station, the man who thought his badge made him untouchable was about to learn It could also be the very thing that exposed him. Because that night, justice was coming, and it had her name written all over it. The morning after the storm, the air over Jacksonville was still heavy, not from the rain, but from everything that had happened in the dark. The story had already started to spread. A woman wrongfully arrested, a respected doctor treated like a criminal, and the man behind it was starting to realize what he'd done. Inside the precinct, Sergeant Cole Walker sat in silence. The same silence he used to command over others. But now, it pressed on him like a weight. The phone calls hadn't stopped all morning. His name was in the reports. His badge number listed in the complaint. And his chief, well, he wasn't smiling anymore. Chief Daniels stepped in, a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He tossed a folder on the table, and it landed like a hammer. "What the hell were you thinking, Cole?" Cole looked up defiant. "I was doing my job, sir." She was non-compliant. Chief Daniels leaned forward. "Non-compliant? You arrested a state medical examiner over a broken taillight that wasn't even broken." Cole blinked. "Wait, what?" Daniels slammed the folder open. Photographs, body cam screenshots, a copy of Maya's credentials. "This woman isn't just some random driver, Sergeant. She's testified in federal court. She's worked with the Attorney General's office. And now her name, your name, is all over the media." Cole's confidence faltered. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Daniels exhaled slowly. "You've embarrassed this department, son, and Internal Affairs is already waiting to speak with you." Cole looked down at his badge. For years, it had been his shield. Now it felt like a target. Across town, in the Duval County Courthouse, the air was colder, the kind of cold that came from polished marble floors. In whispered judgment, Dr. Maya Ellison stood near the defense table, her posture calm, her eyes steady. No handcuffs this time, no gray walls or flickering lights, just truth and time. Beside her was attorney Rachel Monroe, a woman known for her poise and precision. She flipped through her notes like she'd done this 1,000 times. Because she had. The courtroom began to fill. Reporters, officers, a few curious faces from the community. Even some of Cole's fellow cops had shown up. They wanted to see what would happen when the tables turned. Then the heavy wooden doors opened. Cole walked in, still in uniform, but he looked smaller now. His chin wasn't as high. His walk wasn't as confident. And when his eyes met Maya's, he looked away first. Funny how power feels different when the world finally watches you use it wrong. The judge entered. Judge Raymond Hale, an older man with lines on his face that told stories of patience and justice. He adjusted his glasses and spoke. "Court is now in session. Let's proceed." The prosecutor, a man named Anthony Reed, stood up first. "Your Honor, we have reason to believe that Dr. Maya Ellison was unlawfully detained and subjected to misconduct by the arresting officer, Sergeant Cole Walker." Murmurs rippled through the room. The judge raised a hand. Quiet in the court. Anthony continued. "Furthermore, evidence suggests a repeated pattern of racially biased stops under Sergeant Walker's supervision." The judge turned to Cole. "Sergeant Walker, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Cole stood, his voice tight. "Your Honor, the defendant was non-compliant. She refused to follow my instructions." Anthony lifted a document. "Non-compliant," he said. Then he read from the report. "The footage shows her calm, cooperative, and repeatedly asking reasonable questions." He set the papers down. "Does that sound like resistance to you, Sergeant?" Cole's jaw tensed. He didn't answer. The prosecutor nodded toward the bailiff. "Let's play the body cam footage." The room darkened slightly as a screen lowered. On it, the moment it all began. Cole's voice, sharp and impatient. Maya's voice, calm and clear. "Every because I said so. Every, are you arguing with me?" Every ounce of power abused. And then, the sound of cuffs snapping shut. When it ended, the silence in that courtroom was deafening. The judge leaned back slowly, his expression unreadable. "Sergeant Walker," he said, "what I just witnessed wasn't procedure. It was pride, and pride has no place behind a badge." Cole swallowed hard. "Your Honor, with all due respect." The judge's gavel struck once, sharper than thunder. "Enough." He turned his gaze toward Maya. "Dr. Ellison, on behalf of this court, I apologize for what you endured. Maya nodded quietly. "Thank you, Your Honor." The judge looked back at Cole. "The charges against Dr. Ellison are hereby dismissed, and I'm ordering an immediate internal review of your conduct and record." Another strike of the gavel. Final. Absolute. Cole stood frozen, his face pale, his world collapsing in front of everyone. Reporters scribbled notes. Cameras flashed, and all he could hear was his own breathing. When the judge exited, Maya gathered her documents, placed them neatly in her folder, and turned to leave. But before she did, she stopped beside Cole, close enough for him to hear her whisper, "Next time you look at someone through a badge," she said, "remember what you saw today." She walked away, head high, graceful, unbothered. Cole sat down slowly. The uniform on his back felt heavier than it ever had before. Hours later, he was back in the precinct. But this time, he wasn't giving orders. He was waiting. The chief entered with a quiet sigh. He didn't even look at Cole at first. Just set a piece of paper on the desk. "Effective immediately," he said softly. "You're suspended pending investigation." Cole clenched his fists. "This isn't fair." The chief cut him off. "Fair? You think what you do is fair? You embarrassed this department. You lied on a report, and you violated an innocent woman's rights. Be grateful you're not in a cell right now." Cole looked down, but the words hit harder than he expected. The badge on his chest, the same one that made him feel powerful, now felt like guilt pinned in metal. He stood, ripped it off, and placed it on the desk. It landed with a dull, heavy sound. Across town, Maya sat at a small table by the window, a cup of coffee steaming in front of her. Outside, the city buzzed like nothing had happened. People walking to work, cars passing by, life moving on. Her phone buzzed. A message from Rachel, her lawyer. He's been suspended. Internal Affairs is moving forward. The news is calling it the Ellison case. Maya smiled faintly, not out of pride, but out of peace. A quiet, earned peace. Her phone rang again. This time, the voice on the other end was familiar. "Dr. Ellison? Yes. This is Captain Ross from the governor's office. We'd like to formally recognize you for your professionalism during last night's incident." Maya chuckled softly. "Professionalism? I was just being me." The captain paused, and that's exactly why people need to see it. Your story's gone viral. You're an example of calm in chaos. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes drifted toward the street. A young boy holding his mother's hand, laughing as they crossed the road. That image said more than words ever could. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It whispers, and its whisper is louder than every badge, every lie, every abuse of power. Maya didn't need revenge. She had truth, and truth was enough. But as her story spread across the city, one thing became clear. This wasn't over, because behind closed doors, Sergeant Cole Walker wasn't done fighting. He was angry, bitter, and desperate to clear his name. Late that evening, in the shadows of his apartment, he sat staring at a printed article on his phone, his own photo beside the headline. "Sergeant suspended over wrongful arrest of state doctor." He threw the phone against the wall. "No," he muttered under his breath. "They won't destroy me over this. Not her. Not anyone." He pulled out his laptop, opened a folder of old footage, old files, cases he thought no one would ever see again. And on his desk lay something else, a small flash drive with the label Ellison backup copy. His jaw tightened. He whispered to himself, "You think you're untouchable? Let's see what happens when I tell my side." He thought the fight was over. But sometimes, evil doesn't vanish when it's exposed. It hides, it plots, it waits, and when it strikes again, it comes harder. Because while Maya believed she'd found peace, what waited in the shadows was something far darker, something that would test not just her patience, but her power. Some storms don't end when the rain stops. Some storms live in silence. They wait, they build, until they find another reason to strike. And for Sergeant Cole Walker, the storm wasn't over. Not yet. It had been a week since the courtroom verdict. The city had moved on, but Cole hadn't. He sat alone in his apartment, the blinds drawn, a single lamp glowing over a cluttered desk, newspapers scattered everywhere. each one with the same headline. Suspended officer faces investigation. His badge was gone. His gun was gone. His name dragged through every local channel. And in the center of his desk lay a small flash drive. The label read, Ellison, backup copy. Cole leaned back in his chair, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. He whispered under his breath, "They made me the villain, but they don't know what really happened." His mind replayed every second of that night. The flashing lights, the cuffs, the silence. He didn't see himself as the problem. No, he saw himself as the victim. And that was the most dangerous kind of man. Across town, life had returned to normal for Dr. Maya Ellison. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Her mornings were filled with patient reports, case reviews, and long walks through the hospital corridors. People greeted her differently now, with respect, with admiration. But sometimes, admiration feels like pressure wearing a smile. Everywhere she went, people whispered her name. She had become a symbol, the woman who stood up to power and won. And yet, deep down, Maya felt uneasy, because power, even when defeated, rarely surrenders quietly. That feeling proved right when she received a call from her lawyer. Rachel Monroe's voice came through the line, low and serious. "Maya, are you alone right now?" "Yes, what's wrong?" Rachel hesitated. "I just received an email from the Internal Affairs Division. They've reopened Cole's case." Maya frowned. "Reopened? What?" "Apparently," Rachel said, "he's claiming he has new evidence, something that could prove his innocence." Maya leaned against the wall, her stomach tightening. "What kind of evidence?" Rachel exhaled. "He says he has body cam footage that wasn't shown in court. Footage that was intentionally hidden." Maya went silent, because she knew what that meant. He was twisting the truth. Again, that same night, a new video began spreading online, posted anonymously. Title, Unseen Footage, The Truth About Dr. Maya Ellison's Arrest. The clip was heavily edited. Cuts, skips, selective angles. It showed Maya stepping out of her car, but not the words that came before. It showed her questioning him, but not his arrogance. It painted her as aggressive, defiant, uncooperative. The comments section exploded. Some defended her, but others turned the story around. See, she wasn't so innocent. She played the race card. She provoked him. Maya's phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, texts, emails. She sat at her dining table, scrolling through the chaos. Her face was calm, but her eyes betrayed something else. A quiet ache. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about truth being poisoned by lies. The next morning, the hospital board called an emergency meeting. When Maya walked into the conference room, the air was thick with tension. Her department head, Dr. Samuel Green, looked uncomfortable as he spoke. "Maya," he began, "we're under pressure from the media. The video has raised questions." Maya folded her arms. "Questions about what?" "You saw the court verdict." "I know," he said softly, "but perception matters. Until this clears, we're putting you on administrative leave." Maya froze. "Leave? For what reason?" "Public image," he replied quietly. Not guilt. Those two words, public image, cut deeper than she expected. She stood there in silence for a moment, then gathered her things. If they wanted silence, they get silence, but it wouldn't last long. Narrator, somber tone. Sometimes the system doesn't care about right or wrong. It only cares about how things look. And when lies look louder than truth, good people get caught in the noise. But Maya wasn't one to stay silent for long. Rachel paced the floor, papers scattered on her desk. "I checked the metadata on that so-called footage," she said. "It's been tampered with, spliced together from old recordings. Cole's trying to fake his innocence." Maya exhaled slowly. "Can we prove it?" Rachel nodded. "Yes, but we'll need access to the department's archives." "Then let's do it." Rachel hesitated. "It won't be easy. He's already feeding his story to the media. Talk shows, online interviews. He's claiming you used your connections to ruin him." Maya leaned forward. "I didn't ruin him. He did that himself." Rachel smiled faintly. "That's what makes you dangerous to him. You don't need to lie to be right." By the end of that week, the city was divided. Half stood with Maya, the other half with the man she exposed. Cole appeared on a local podcast, his voice heavy with fake humility. "I made mistakes," he said, "but I never targeted anyone. The media twisted my actions. I was just doing my job." The host leaned in. "Do you think Dr. Ellison is behind this?" Cole's eyes darkened. "I think she's trying to destroy me. And I think people need to know that even the system protects its favorites." It was subtle, but the damage was done. By the next day, news outlets were running with his version. Officer claims cover-up by state doctor. Was the arrest more complicated than we thought? Maya watched it all unfold from her living room. The TV's glow painting her face in cold light. Her phone rang again. "Rachel, turn off the news," she said. "Cole's going down. I promise." But promises didn't quiet the noise. They didn't erase the doubt. And they didn't heal the part of her that still remembered the sound of those cuffs. That night, Maya went for a walk along the riverfront. The wind was cool. The city lights shimmered against the water. She stood there, watching her reflection ripple with every wave. So much had changed in just 2 weeks. She had fought for justice, and now justice was being rewritten. Then, behind her, a voice. "Didn't think you'd actually show up here alone." She turned, and her breath caught. Cole. He stood a few feet away, hands in his jacket pockets, his smile crooked and cold. "What do you want, Cole?" she asked quietly. He shrugged. "Just wanted to see the woman who took everything from me." "I didn't take anything," Maya said. "You lost it when you lied." He stepped closer. "You think you're some kind of hero? They'll forget you in a month. But me? I'll make sure they remember." Her eyes didn't waver. "Threatening me won't fix your mistakes." Cole's smile faded. "I don't make mistakes." He turned to leave, but before he walked off, he looked back over his shoulder. "Careful, doctor. People in power fall faster than you think." The next morning, Rachel burst into Maya's apartment, a laptop in her hands. "Maya, you need to see this." She opened the screen. A leaked email thread glowed on the monitor. It was from Internal Affairs, but the signature was forged. The message suggested that Maya had bribed officials to tamper with Cole's record. Her heart sank. Where did this come from? Rachel's voice was tense. Someone sent it to every major news outlet in the city. Maya's mind raced. "This is fabricated. We can prove that." Rachel nodded. "We will. But right now, the headlines are already running with it." Maya exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. Cole wasn't just fighting to clear his name. He was fighting to destroy hers. Truth had won once, but now lies were fighting back harder. And sometimes, evil doesn't come with a gun or a badge. It comes with a story, a twisted story that spreads faster than the truth ever can. By nightfall, the damage was done. The hospital board called again. The media camped outside her apartment, reporters shouting her name like it was a scandal. Rachel stayed on the phone, calm but firm. "We'll counter this. I've already sent a request for a digital forensics review. Once we prove the forgery, he's finished." Maya looked out the window, watching the flashing lights of news vans reflect off the glass. Her voice was steady. "He started this in the dark. Let's finish it in the light." But what neither of them knew was that Cole had already gone one step further. In the early hours of the morning, he met someone in a parking lot on the edge of town. A man in a suit, an old contact from inside the department. A small envelope exchanged hands. Inside, confidential case files, including one marked Ellison Classified Evidence, Federal Cooperation. Cole smirked as he looked at the seal. "This should be enough to bury her," he muttered. The man nodded. "Be careful, Cole. You're playing with fire." Cole slipped the envelope into his jacket. "I'm the fire." The truth had freed her once. But now, a darker truth was being forged. One that could destroy everything she built. Because in this story, justice wasn't finished, and neither was vengeance. A leaked secret turns the case upside down, and the woman who once stood for truth must now fight for her very name. Some wars are fought with weapons, others with words. But the hardest wars to win are the ones against lies. And this was the final round. A week had passed since the fake emails hit the news. The headlines hadn't stopped. Neither had the judgment. Dr. Maya Ellison, the woman once praised for her courage, was now being called untrustworthy, manipulative, and corrupt. Every channel, every blog, every social feed, twisting her truth into something ugly. She barely left her apartment anymore. Not because she was afraid, but because she didn't want the world to see how much it hurt. But pain has a way of turning into fuel. Rachel Monroe, her lawyer and closest ally, sat surrounded by screens and files. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, her eyes sharp behind a pair of glasses. She was running digital forensics on the leaked emails, frame by frame, line by line. Then, a blink of discovery. There it is, she whispered, in the metadata of one of the so-called emails. A single digital fingerprint appeared, a login from a private server, registered under one name, Cole Walker. Rachel leaned back, smiling for the first time in days. You just buried yourself, Sergeant. Later that night, she called Maya. Maya, I found it. Her voice was electric with relief. Cole forged those messages himself. I've got timestamps, IP addresses, everything. We can expose him officially. For a moment, Maya didn't say anything. Then she exhaled softly. Send it to the Attorney General's office. I don't want revenge, Rachel. I want the truth. Rachel nodded. It's already done. But just as she hung up, a sudden crash echoed outside her office window. Sound effect, shattering glass. She froze, looked out into the dark parking lot below. A figure in a black hoodie was sprinting toward a car, engine roaring to life before speeding off. Her heart pounded when she looked back at her desk. The folder she had prepared for the AG's office was gone. Narrator, slow, suspenseful. Truth had finally been found, but truth can be stolen too. The next morning, Maya woke up to another wave of chaos. Her phone buzzed nonstop, dozens of missed calls, Rachel's number among them. But the voicemail that followed made her blood run cold. Maya, someone broke into my office. They took everything. The files, the backup drives gone. I'm fine, but we're starting over from zero. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, her fingers trembling. Cole wasn't just defending himself anymore. He was erasing her defense. But there was one thing he didn't know. Maya kept her own backup, hidden on a secure drive in her home office. That evening, she packed her laptop and drove straight to the courthouse. The hearing to review Cole's reinstatement was set for the next morning. The room would be full. Media, attorneys, police officials. The same faces that once cheered for her, now watching to see if she'd fall. Morning came. The courthouse felt different this time. Colder, quieter, the kind of quiet that happens before a storm breaks. Cole arrived first, clean-shaven, suit pressed, eyes hollow but defiant. He had a team of lawyers beside him, and the smirk he once wore in the patrol car was back on his face. When Maya entered, the room fell silent. She walked with quiet grace, dressed simply, her hair pulled back, her presence steady as stone. Cole watched her sit down and whispered to his lawyer, "She's finished." But the truth was just beginning to speak. The judge, Marion Holt, a sharp, composed woman in her 60s, looked down from the bench. "Today," she began, "we are here to determine the validity of new evidence presented by Sergeant Cole Walker regarding his suspension and conduct." Cole's attorney stood. "Your Honor, we have evidence that suggests Dr. Ellison tampered with state records to fabricate misconduct claims against my client." The judge raised a brow. "And where is this evidence?" Cole nodded to a technician who plugged in a flash drive. On the screen behind them, the forged email thread appeared, the same one Rachel had found earlier. Cole leaned forward, confident. "Everything's there, Your Honor. She framed me." The courtroom buzzed. Reporters scribbled. Whispers rippled through the audience. But Maya didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even blink, because she was waiting. When the judge turned to her, she stood slowly. "Your Honor," she said, "I'd like to submit a counter-exhibit." Rachel, still shaken but fierce, handed her a small silver drive. "This," Maya continued, "contains the full forensic report, traced to that exact flash drive. The person who created those fake emails used a private server, registered to Sergeant Walker's personal account." The judge frowned. "Are you certain?" "Positive," Maya replied. "The timestamps, IP logins, and file hashes all match his workstation. He didn't just forge evidence. He stole confidential material. To make it look real, the courtroom erupted. Cole's lawyer tried to interject, but the judge silenced him with a wave. "Play it," she ordered. On the screen, the digital footprint unfolded, each click exposing another lie. Cole's logins, his edits, his deleted drafts, every move, recorded by the very system he thought would protect him. When it ended, the room was silent again. But this time, it wasn't Maya who looked small. It was him. You can lie to people. You can lie to the system. But you can't lie to the truth. Because truth doesn't disappear. It waits. For moments like this, Judge Holt leaned forward. "Sergeant Walker," she said, "this is beyond misconduct. This is fraud, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice." Cole's face flushed red. He stammered, "Your Honor, I didn't." But the judge's voice cut through him like lightning. "You've disgraced your badge and endangered an innocent woman's name. Effective immediately, you are terminated and referred to federal authorities for prosecution." Her gavel came down. One final thunderous strike. And just like that, it was over. Maya stood there, breathing in the silence. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She just breathed. Because victory isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just peace returning. After too many sleepless nights, Rachel turned to her, smiling softly. "You did it." Maya nodded. "No, the truth did." They walked out of the courthouse together. The cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. But Maya didn't stop. She didn't owe them a story. She'd already lived it. Riverside Park at sunset. That evening, Maya stood at the same riverfront, where she'd last seen Cole. The sky burned gold and crimson, the water reflecting the light, like fire melting into peace. She closed her eyes, feeling the wind on her face. The battle was over, but the war for justice never really ends. A voice behind her spoke softly. "Dr. Ellison?" She turned. A young police officer stood there, nervous but respectful. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said. "My sister," she watched her case, said it gave her hope. Maya smiled gently. "Tell her to keep that hope close. It's stronger than fear." The officer nodded, then walked away. Maya turned back to the water. The city lights flickered on in the distance. And for the first time in weeks, she felt free. Justice isn't always quick. It's not always clean. And it's never easy. But when it finally arrives, it brings light to every shadow that once tried to hide the truth. Maya didn't win because she was powerful. She won because she refused to be silent. Because she refused to let lies become louder than her voice. And somewhere in a small prison cell, a man named Cole Walker sat staring at the wall, realizing too late that the badge he once used as armor had become his chain. Narrator, for every person who's been silenced, for every soul who's been judged, before being heard, this story is for you. Because power isn't in a title. It's not in a uniform. It's in truth. It's in grace. It's in the courage to stand tall when the world tries to break you. And sometimes, the loudest revenge is peace. He thought his badge made him untouchable. But in the end, the truth touched everything. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, then don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell. Because every story we tell here is a voice for the voiceless, a light in the dark, and a reminder that truth always finds its way. Stay tuned, because here, every struggle has a story, and every story has a purpose